Hi, I'm Sam Jeppy with the 2013 Vedic Astrology forecast. This will be an interesting July. It starts with Mercury retrograde in Gemini. Mercury is going to continue to be retrograde until July 20th. Now, this retrograde cycle of Mercury is happening in Gemini, and because Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, it's quite an intelligent placement. You know, Mercury retrograde cycles are often pretty, pathologized and pretty, condemned. But actually, Mercury is that voice in your head that's clarifying what you tell yourself, how you interpret life, how you're able to adjust to things. When the planet is retrograde, it's backing up in our psyche and in our consciousness. This is why it's considered a pretty major strength in Vedic astrology, which is actually Indian astrology, because in the East, there's much more of a value placed on being introspective and reflective. So Mercury retrograde cycles are a time to reflect. Now, often we're reflecting because something external has messed up. And in this case, it could be, you're realizing how what you express to others and how you communicate is not necessarily helpful or conducive to what you want. Sometimes we sabotage ourselves by how we communicate. And it really affects our relationships with others and our capacity to manifest. These are big issues to reflect upon in any Mercury retrograde cycle, but when Mercury goes retrograde in his own sign, like the sign of Gemini, we can actually really get it, and we can actually make adjustments and go, oh, and really grow in intelligence based on a recalibration of how we're interpreting life, how we're explaining to ourselves what's going on. This is a big thing because something happens and then we have this story that sort of clicks into our mind, and it's a big sort of programming. So Mercury retrograde in Gemini is very auspicious, in my opinion, because we're not only able to, take a look at our relationships and the story we're telling ourselves, but also make adjustments, because that's what Gemini is about. It's about being creative and playful and flexible and saying, oh, you know what? That was my mistake, and I can just sort of laugh at myself and move on. So this could be a big benefit from the beginning of July through July 20th. We also have another big cycle that's starting July 6th until around the July 20th as well, and that's Jupiter aspecting Saturn. So Jupiter and Saturn are going to be in a very close aspect. It's actually Jupiter aspecting Saturn. Jupiter aspects the 5th and the 9th houses in front of him, and he'll be putting that aspect on Saturn in Libra. Again, this could be very beneficial for romantic relationships because Libra is the sign where we learn to honor another person's wishes equal to our own, and Saturn is there right now, bringing some pressure in that area of life. So we're all being really challenged to evaluate how well we're able to accommodate others and how much we're able to yield our wishes to another person's. And Jupiter will be bringing that auspicious aspect to like the exact degree from around July 6th till around the 20th. So again, it's a very good time for you to, bring a lot of wisdom and grace and healing and, optimism and higher thinking into that area of life that can often get us sort of tangled up. So we've been experiencing a lot of pressure in that area of life because Saturn has been there for the last year and a half or so off and on, and from July 6th till around July 20th, there's a great opportunity to see some healing and grace and wisdom in that area of life. So we have a new moon on July 7th that's going to happen in Gemini, and that's going to happen in the nakshatra called Punarvasu, which means return of the light. Now, this new moon is also going to have Mars joined, Jupiter will be there, also Mercury retrograde, and of course the Sun and Moon. So we're going to have Sun, Moon, Mars, Jupiter, and retrograde Mercury all in Gemini coming together at the initiation of this new moon cycle. So the new moon is really the beginning of a cycle. Often astrologers make a big deal about the full moon, like the full moon is the start of it's really not the start. The full moon is the halfway point in a cycle that starts with the new moon. The new moon is the initiation of the cycle. The full moon is the halfway point, when the moon has gone halfway around. Then it comes back around and joins the sun again, and the cycle starts again. So the new moon is the beginning of the cycle. So the Gemini 2013 cycle starts on July 7th. And so it's bringing together Mars and Jupiter, which are planets of righteousness and action and discipline, courage. These will be very important. And also it's happening in Gemini, which is about ideas and communication. And again, Mercury retrograde is also there, which I just described, and the Sun and Moon. So this just shows the soul and the mind joined around this important lesson. So this whole concept of flexibility, communication, imbued with a sense of hope and courage will be initiated on July 7th. And they'll be in the nakshatra of Punarvasu. Now the nakshatras are really important in Vedic astrology because it shows the distant stars. And this nakshatra, it literally means return of the light. And the deity, or the god, is called Aditi, who is the mother of the Adityas. And it's very much like an earth mother, divine mother energy. So it's a very healing time. And especially with Mars and Jupiter join, which is unusual, that only happens every couple years, it really brings a lot of courage and optimism to this area of life where we're trying to expand and connect to higher teachings and, as I say, that sense of flexibility and creativity and the desire and need to understand our teachings, not just to believe in things blindly. So there'll be also that healing Earth Mother energy brought into that. So it's a very auspicious time, especially with the Mercury retrograde there, bringing a lot of introspection as we move forward with that cycle in 2013, the Gemini cycle. So on July 16th and 17th, the moon will be joined Saturn and Rahu in Libra, and this could be a time where we need to be careful because Saturn and Rahu in Libra brings a lot of stress and heaviness to the mind, and when the moon joins Saturn, it can bring some grief and depression and stress, and also when it joins Rahu. So like I said earlier though, Jupiter is going to be aspecting during this time, so it also brings a lot of healing and hope, but you might feel some relationship pressure, some relationship frustration on July 16th and 17th as the moon goes through Libra and joins Saturn and Rahu. The other thing that's happening on the 16th is the sun is changing signs. So the sun is going to move from sidereal Gemini into Cancer. So especially the 16th, there could be a lot of energy that feels uncertain because the sun is changing signs and we have that moon join Saturn and Rahu. So again, on the 16th, the moon moves from Gemini, which is more about ideas and flexibility, into Cancer, which is where we're trying to take that sort of childlike inquisitiveness and curiosity and bring it into the heart. That's what Cancer is about. So Gemini to Cancer is that sort of transition where the child is curious about the world, and then we become very sensitive and we become very aware of our own feelings and how people can, we can become embarrassed for the things that we think or the things that we say. When children are young, they just say things and they don't have that kind of embarrassment, but once we become sort of embarrassed and we become self-conscious, this is a sort of Cancer energy. So the sun is moving into Cancer on the 16th, and it's at the same time that the moon is join Saturn and Rahu in Libra. Now, on July 20th and the 21st, the moon will be in Sagittarius, and there's a double aspect on the Sagittarius right now because Saturn is aspecting Sagittarius with his third house aspect, and Jupiter is also aspecting Sagittarius with his seventh house aspect. So the moon is going to trigger that on the 20th and the 21st, and that's going to bring a real potential to unite the qualities of Saturn, which is about determination and effort, with the qualities of Jupiter, which are about inspiration, purpose, and hope. And it's going to be around Sagittarius themes, which have to do with belief and inspiration and higher purpose. So it's very auspicious. Anyone who has planets in Sagittarius right now, you're really feeling that double influence of Saturn and Jupiter. It's very powerful because, again, this is how we grow through life. We have to face obstacles, which is Saturn, and persevere through them. But what really allows us to do that is the hope and the belief and the things that sustain us beyond just all of the worldly problems that we have to deal with. So anytime there's a mutual Saturn-Jupiter conjunction or influence, this is an area of life where things can really progress, even though they might not be so easy. So anyone who has planets actually in the sign of Libra or the sign of Sagittarius right now, is those planets are being pressured by Saturn and inspired by Jupiter. So we'll really feel this by transit on the 20th and the 21st when the moon goes through Sagittarius and gets the aspect from Saturn and the aspect from Jupiter. So this transit of the moon through Sagittarius and aspected by Saturn and Jupiter on the 20th and 21st then leads directly into the full moon on the 22nd. And this particular full moon is also called Guru Purnima. Very auspicious day to worship your gurus, worship your teachers, and really get the message of what your teachings mean. And it happens in the full moon in the Indian month of Ashad. It actually usually happens when the moon is going through Sagittarius, but this year it's actually in Capricorn. It actually came a little later than usual. But this is a great time to really, honor your teachers, honor your teachings, and really connect with their meaning. And this year, this full moon happens in the nakshatra of Uttar Ashada, which means later victory and guaranteed victory. And especially when we honor what are called the Vishwadevas, or the universal gods, then victory is assured. And this year, the Guru Purnima also happens with that Jupiter, Mars, Mercury in Gemini. Now, Jupiter and Mars are also very close to each other at the time of the full moon. So this, again, brings a lot of courage to confront our mental preconceptions and really establish strong practices and routines that connect us to the truth, not just some intellectual exercise about it. So really uniting our beliefs, which are very abstract, with our practices and the willingness to challenge our beliefs and understand them intellectually, but then also after we challenge them intellectually and are convinced and we know how this stuff works, then we need to do the practices. So all of this really comes together in the month of July anyway, but it's a great time to realize all this on July 22nd on Guru Purnima with the full moon in Capricorn. Now, Jupiter will aspect the moon on July 24th, also very directly as the moon goes through Aquarius on July 24th. Again, this is a trinal aspect from Jupiter right onto the moon. And again, this can really confer a blessing and keep that beauty of Guru Purnima moving forward, because, Jupiter is actually the planet who is called Guru. And Guru literally means heavy, and it also means the remover of darkness or the dispeller of darkness. And it's embodied in the planet of Jupiter. So when Jupiter aspects the moon, it gives that sort of Guru's grace. So the mind around, from really July 20th to the, as I said, July 20th and 21st with that mutual Saturn Jupiter aspect, and then the 22nd is Guru Purnima, and then the 24th we have that exact Jupiter aspect in the sky. A lot of grace flowing and a strong connection to gurus and teachers from the 20th to around the 24th. And then the 29th and 30th, the end of the month, the moon will go into Aries and be a great time for starting new projects and initiating a new cycle and feeling that sort of courageous exploration of life when the moon goes into Aries. Now, it'll also be joining the South Node, which is a great time for you to really fall back and reconnect with your teachings as well, because the South Node shows the wisdom that you've already learned. However, you want to be careful being critical of yourself and others, and don't get stuck in perfectionism. This is one of the biggest reasons people don't put things into practice, especially as it relates to your external life and things like business and whatnot. Don't procrastinate due to perfectionism. Take a chance and get out there and act and use your skills at the end of the month on July 29th and 30th as the moon goes through Aries. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope you have a great July 2013. Give me some comments below. Let me know what you think of this.